Hello class, my name is Gabe Jackson and I'm here to present my findings on my chosen research topic, the topic of leadership. Leadership is a very deep and layered topic that has been honed and evolved over the last 100+ years. So much so that scholars can't necessarily agree on what definition constitutes as leadership. There are some definitions that are long and inclusive, some that are short and succinct, but there's no one universal definition. For example, in his contribution to the Psychological Bulletin in 1950, R.M. Stosedale he defines leadership as the process of influencing activities of an organized group in its effort toward goal setting. But James Burns, in his book Leadership, posits that a leader transforms followers, creates visions and goals that may be attained, and articulates for the followers the way to attain those goals. Leadership persons mobilize resources to arouse, engage, and satisfy the motives of the followers. So these definitions are two opposite ends of the spectrum. Now, for the sake of this study, this research, we're going to use the Griffin, Phillips, and Gully definition in their work, Organizational Behavior. And in their work, in their book, the definition that they use for leadership is the use of non-coercive activities to coordinate the activities of group members to meet a goal. The purpose of bringing this up is not to review or to figure out what the best definition is, but it's to lay a foundation of where the concept has been, because the purpose of this study is to predict where it's going. As we change and as we evolve as people, as we experience new experiences like COVID, and as we have different values and lifestyle habits, we are going to change, which means leadership has to adapt to the new working subordinates. So we are going to predict, based off the research, what the leadership may look like in the years to come. So we're going to go through the lit review, some traditional and modern approaches. We're going to go through the assertion and argument. We're going to go through the methodology, and then we'll conclude. With the traditional approaches, that includes the trait approach, the behavioral studies, and the situational analysis. The trait approach is not in circulation anymore because the list has gotten so big, and it's hard to figure out what leaders in the world have in common. Every leader in the world does not have everything in common, and that list that those scholars compiled got so big that it began to be unreasonable. And that gave way to the situational approach. The situational approach aligns with the idea that is individual situations bring out different traits of a leader. So the circumstances will bring out different traits, and there is no one standalone universal style of leadership. Behavioral studies, in the same way, they try to figure out what the behaviors are. Those scholars study and research what behaviors good leaders and bad leaders exhibit. Two very prominent places of study that I suggest is the Michigan State studies and the Michigan studies and the Ohio studies, which were done at Michigan State University and Ohio State University. And those added layers to the study of leadership, which for the sake of time, I won't go into detail here. With the modern approaches, we have the leader membership exchange theory. We have the idiosyncrasy credit model of leadership and the micro-politics approach to leadership. Those three don't have. The leader member exchange theory is researched a lot, but the idiosyncrasy credit model of leadership and the micro-politics they don't have the same type of attention and research, though they are very prevalent and they are very relevant to the study, as we see them both in real life. The hypothesis that I came up with, the research led to two main points. And those main points are that leadership is going to be more personal than it's ever been in times past. And it's going to be more of the leaders of this generation are more poised to be more equipped than any generation in any time, period. And I recognize that that's an ambitious statement to make, but in due time, I'll explain exactly how I got there. The Harvard Business Review gave they published an article in 2019 that talked about how millennials look for jobs that align with their values and that they can see themselves in their identities. So as they look for jobs that fuse together with their personal lives, they don't just see a job now as a paycheck, they see a job as part of themselves. And so they're going to give that part of themselves to the job. And so as the leader wants more, I'm actually going to pause right there. I'm going to explain how knowledge workers have their place in today's workforce. Knowledge workers are those workers who work with information. And with today's services dominating the sales industry, a lot of, even when there's a company that has products, that sells products, they usually sell a service right along with it. So the information sharing and knowledge transfer is a huge deal in today's workforce. So what leaders do now, instead of a micromanaging style, what they'll do is they'll give information to the knowledge workers who handle the information, and then they'll just create the environment that can help that can foster the creation and the creativity and the innovation that the knowledge workers can bring to the organization. And so with leaders being able to have more of a hands-off approach, they have to be more willing to handle them and to deal with their subordinates on a personal level so that they can work to create that environment. So leaders will be more personal than ever before. We're also more poised to be, this generation of leaders is also more poised to be the most equipped ever, because there's not only an influx of information everywhere, there's also a personalized style of learning. So now we not only do we have the information to give, we know exactly how to give it. So with the advent of virtual learning, online learning, and with more customizable learning environments, we can now learn exactly to how our brains process. And it's not just a one size fits all anymore. So leaders are coming to a new breakthrough and new heights in this study. So just as it evolved 100 plus years ago, it's still undergoing that same surgery today. Now, the methodology was done in two ways: research gathering and research analysis. I used 3 different engines. I used Jerry Falwell Library, I used Google Scholar, and I used ResearchGate.net. Once I gathered all the data, I sifted through it and organized it based on 3 different criteria: relevant time, relevant industry, relevant culture. I found a lot of stuff that was really good research, but it was from like Scotland, and it was in a really obscure industry that I've never heard of, and I probably will never see, or buy anything from. And so it didn't necessarily, not that it wasn't bad, not that it wasn't good information, it just, this study was only so big. It can only include so much. And so I had to be wise about what I included. And that's how I got what I got. And that methodology got me to this research. If you want to do further research, then check out my research, my project on Canvas, and also look at the Michigan studies and the Ohio State studies. Those give you a really good insight into what behaviors different leaders exhibit, even to this very day. Thank you.